Hey everybody, and welcome back to FSI DFS. I'm McKinley412, and today we're looking at this 10-game main slate on DraftKings for Saturday night. A slate that I think is pretty chalky in terms of where the pitching is going to be going, and kind of the bats as well. After Toronto bats, and I think San Francisco is just far too cheap. After that, it gets pretty kind of muddied. Nobody's really like making me super excited to play them, but also there's not anybody that's like awful either. So we'll just kind of go through it. You can kind of see where I'm kind of already going to be talking about in terms of pitching wise. And yeah, so Carlos Rodon, he's going to be your number one pitcher on the slate. He's only 9,500. Scherzer is 10.6K. So Rodon, you got that $1,100 discount. He's got a better matchup going up against Oakland. Scherzer's against Atlanta. Rodon's got 3 starts in his past 5, going double-digit strikeout. So absolutely love Rodon here. I know he struggled, in a couple starts before that, but I mean, he's back. He's going to be your SP1 today, hands down. Scherzer, he's got a little tougher matchup going up against Atlanta. He's 1,100 more than Rodon is. Atlanta does strike out quite a bit, but they still are an elite offense. Scherzer, over the course of his career, has kind of struggled letting up the home run ball. So maybe Atlanta can get a couple home runs on him. It would not shock me. I know earlier on the month, let's see where it is. Oh, it's already here already. Earlier on in the month, he faced Atlanta, put up 34 DK points. So, I mean, the ceiling is definitely there. It's possible he had 9 strikeouts in that game. Because, like I said, Atlanta, they do strike out a lot as a team, but they still can generate a whole lot of offense just because of how good they are. Max Fried, 9,500. He's kind of ranked 3rd. I don't have a whole lot of interest in him. I would just go to Rodon. He would be a GPP pivot, if anything. But the issue with that is that he doesn't have a super high ceiling. Looking through his logs, 2 of his past 16 starts have gone over 25 DK points, which is just crazy. I mean, he's a fantastic real-life pitcher for sure. But against the Mets, DFS fantasy-wise, he probably going to not hit a ceiling game here. So I don't know what I'm trying to say, but essentially, Fried, he doesn't have a high ceiling. He's got a tough matchup. Just go with Carlos Rodon at 9,500. Fried's going to be very minimally owned, GPP at best. Andrew Heaney, I have over here in the no interest category just because of his pitch count. He's got a great strikeout rate. It's probably like the top or second highest strikeout rate so far in the limited data that we have on him this season. But he's only going like 70 pitches, so I just don't really have much interest in there. And then Merrill Kelly, he's been doing fantastic as of late. He's got a nice matchup going up against Colorado. So if you want to throw him in there, totally fine. 9K is a little bit steep, especially when you want to pay up for like Rodon at 9.5 and you want to get like those Toronto bats in there. However, it could be possible because San Francisco, they're super, super cheap. Arizona's got some cheap bats as well, going up against Senzatella. So if you want to go with Kelly, his strikeout numbers are up as of late. He's improving that kind of as the season goes on, which is fantastic. So we like to see. In the mid-tier, I think is, I don't want to say loaded, but I think it's got a couple of very solid options. I'm not interested in Clevenger going up against the Dodgers. This is his toughest matchup of the season by far. Looking at who he's faced Colorado 4 times. He's faced Arizona 3 times. The Cubs are in there. Cleveland's in there. Seattle. So Dodgers, a whole step above. This is his toughest test. I'm not interested in him at all. Detmer is going up against Seattle. He's got a serious price bump. He was more in like the low 7K. I guess he was like upper 6K, low 7K kind of throughout the season. But, Seattle, a middle of the road offense at this point. Do I think he's going to be throwing up a 30-point game like he had last time out? No. But at 8.6K, all you're looking for is around like 20 DK points. If he can get you that, he's going to be paying off his salary. And I'd be happy with that at 8.6K. So you can certainly get there. So don't mind Detmers. Lodolo and Ashby, these are your 2 like strikeout ceiling upside guys. Ashby is in a better matchup than Lodolo is. Ashby is going up against Cincinnati. Lodolo has to deal with Milwaukee and their amazing bats. So Ashby is a little bit cheaper too, which is kind of why I have him ranked as like the top mid-tier guy, followed by Lodolo, and then I think Flexen actually than Detmers. Kirby, I don't think is starting in the second game. I think he's in the first game of the doubleheader. I think Flexen's going to be in. But anybody against the Angels at this point, I'm totally fine with playing them. So Ashby, Lodolo, Flexen, then Detmers. In the cheap tier, there's one guy that sticks out. It's Eovaldi. I have him over here already. 7.3K. He really struggled for a couple of starts here on the All-Star break, but last time out, he played a game against Houston. It was on ESPN. He was looking fantastic. He was mowing guys down. He really just got like hurt by his infield not making any plays. It was just error after error on that left side. But still, if he gets back to his earlier season form, at 7.3K is just far too cheap for him. He was in that like low 9K, upper 8K range all season long. Had this bad stretch, saw his salary plummet, but now he's got a nice matchup against Kansas City. And Rodon Eovaldi, I think, is going to be a very, very popular chalky pitcher start here today. Everybody else in the cheap tier, I don't have too much interest in. I put Kopech, Lynch, and Dunning in there. Am I excited about them? No. Am I probably going to play them? Probably no. But I mean, they're worth mentioning just given the matchups, given their strikeout rates, or who they're facing, all that stuff. So the fades I think are Aller, Senzatella, Bundy for sure, and then Montgomery. Montgomery's very interesting. He's not on the Yankees anymore. He got traded to St. Louis. But St. Louis is playing the Yankees. So his first start with his new team is against his old team that he's been with for the past like 4 or 5 years, however long Montgomery's been there. So I don't mind him at all. And Clevenger, White, Herman, no interest. Not a fade by any means, but just don't have too much interest in them. So turning towards the bats, I don't know why this is a blank cheap thing. That's San Francisco. Turn towards the bats. Toronto is going to be your top dog going up against Bundy. There is a little bit of rain concern in this one, so please pay attention to the weather. There's actually quite a bit of games that have some weather highlights towards them. But even if you want to throw in like some of the top Toronto bats, I mean, Bundy's a huge fly ball guy, so this ball can seriously travel out of the park, especially if the storms that are going through bring a little wind to them or out in front of them and send it out of the ballpark. But even go with Rodon Eovaldi. And then throwing in like your top Toronto bats, Clyde Guerrero, Bo Bichette, George Springer, you're looking at 3.7K remaining for the rest of your lineup. And I kind of mentioned that San Francisco was kind of like the team to target for like some cheap guys. Here you go. Only one guy priced above 3.4K going up against Aller, maybe like the worst or the second worst pitcher on the entire slate. So I know San Francisco's kind of really struggled offensively coming out of the All-Star break, but still, these prices are just far too cheap, in my opinion. So I think that they make for some great matchups, especially those lefties, Yastrzemski, Belt, and so on. So doing like a Toronto-San Francisco stack, don't mind it at all. Below Toronto, I got Boston. This is more me trusting Vegas. Vegas is way smarter than me. I fully admit it. But Boston's got like one of the highest implied run totals on the entire slate. I think they actually have the highest implied run total on the entire slate, going up against Daniel Lynch. Lynch doesn't have like the worst numbers by any means, so I am a little confused as to why they are so high implied run total wise, but still, I'll trust Vegas here. So Boston, they have some cheap plays that you can certainly go to. JD Martinez, he's below 4K, which is something I never really thought I would see. Duran, he's always a fun guy to be paying attention to at 3K. Even if he's higher up in the lineup, absolutely love it. JD Davis, we know what he can do against left-handed pitching, 2.6K. So yeah, Boston's definitely got some cheaper guys that you can fit into your lineup there. St. Louis and then San Diego rounding things out in that top category. GPP, I put the Yankees going up against Montgomery. I kind of mentioned it before, but Montgomery's been with the Yankees for like 4 or 5 years. Now his first start after getting traded is against the Yankees. So maybe he knows something about those Yankees bats, their weaknesses. But also at the same time, maybe the Yankees bats know something about Montgomery and his release and all that stuff. So it remains to be seen. That's kind of why it's of a GPP. It's more up in the air. They certainly have the offensive potential to break a slate. But again, who knows what they know about Montgomery or what Montgomery knows about them. Milwaukee going up against Lodolo. I have them second on the GPP because when Milwaukee is on, they are certainly on. They can certainly hit it out of the park quite a bit. We were on them last night. We recorded a few of their guys. We had Rowdy Tellez at first base. He was only 4% owned. So we did very well with that there. Mancini, we were high on Houston as well. We had Mancini. So things went really well for us yesterday. Hopefully we can continue it. But regardless, Milwaukee, fine offense. Lodolo, like I said, he's got high strikeout rates, but he can struggle here and there. Maybe he doesn't get the strikeouts that he normally does. And Milwaukee can put the ball into play, do some damage. They are a little pricey, which is kind of another reason why they're more towards the GPP category. But if you want to throw in some of their big righties, I mean, Hunter Renfroe at 5K, totally fine. Love it. Probably my top play there. Andrew McCutcheon at 4.4. Even if you want to get some cheaper guys, if Taylor's in there at 3.2 or Caratini at 3K, they have some cheap plays to go along with it as well. But I do like Milwaukee as my second favorite GPP. And then the Dodgers and the White Sox running it out. San Francisco, already talked about them. Super cheap, all over the place. So yeah, just jam in San Francisco if you need some one-offs. If you're looking for some other one-offs, Arizona, they got a lot of cheap guys. I mean, really, I could see them, tossing Senzatella around. It would not shock me if Arizona was able to put up 5, 6, 7 runs here tonight at home against Senzatella, and a lot of affordable prices here as well. A bunch of guys below 4K. Texas, KC, also cheap. Not a whole lot of interest in them, but they're just cheap. You can find some other players as one-offs as well. Leverage, you got Fried and Scherzer. This Yankees are Fried and Scherzer in this Mets and Braves game. 2 solid stud pitchers, but again, 2 solid offenses. So maybe the offenses can generate some things against these strong pitchers. I can certainly maybe get some leverage there. Oakland, leverage against the Rodon chalk that's going to be there. And then Cincinnati, 150 max. These are teams that are just kind of like left over. I don't hate them. I don't love them. They're just kind of like left over. I don't think they're going to be super high owned by any means, but I think it's for good reason. So yeah. So that kind of covers the slate. I mean, it was kind of just a broad overview, but I think Rodon Eovaldi is going to be your way to go in cash with the pitchers, with like a Toronto stack, and then throwing in some Boston or some San Francisco value bats to go along with it. And then in GPP, love the Yankees, love the Brewers with their home run upside, going up against pitchers, who, maybe they could get the best of. And yeah, so that kind of wraps things up. Thanks for watching. As always, I think Mega Ruler is going to be back tomorrow with the Sunday slate. So give him some love. Go watch that video tomorrow, and good luck in your contest tonight. We'll see you then.